Hello, this is Fisher, and this is my focal animal synthesis project. That creature right there, that's a tarpon. I first fell in love with these creatures working on a boat over the summer. Let's start with the basics. Tarpon have existed since the prehistoric age, over 120 million years ago during the Cretaceous period, and the Earth used to look a lot more like this. Currently, tarpon inhabit much of the Atlantic Ocean, on the coastal lines as far south as Brazil, through much of the Caribbean, and up north towards Virginia, as well as select areas on the coast of Africa, as highlighted in red here. Tarpon fall under the family Megalopidae in the genus Megalops, which does consist of two species of tarpon. However, today we will only be talking about the Megalops atlanticus, as the other species resides in the Indian Pacific Ocean, both inhabiting a much smaller area and maintaining a much smaller full size. When tarpon first hatch, this is what they look like. In the leptocephalus larval phase, they absorb nutrients through the seawater. Tarpon will remain in this transparent larval phase for approximately 20 to 50 days, after which they will remain in warm estuaries for several years as they continue to grow. They will reach sexual maturity by around 6 to 7 years, and their full growth length at around 15 years. However, they can live up to 30 to 50 years for male and female tarpons respectively. Once at full size, tarpon can reach up to 8 feet long and weigh up to 280 pounds. To wrap up the basics, here's a quick informational picture of tarpon that highlights their bony mouth and jaw, large scales, and forked tail, three of their most important traits. Now, let's move on to the migrational patterns of tarpon. Many tarpon migrate thousands of miles between their foraging and spawning locations after reaching sexual maturity. While there is well-documented migrational patterns of tarpon moving to higher latitudes in the late spring and early summer, and then migrating back to lower latitudes in the late summer and early fall, as shown by this graph comparing tarpon distance of movement in the month of the year, there is also substantial evidence that shows tarpon may remain in estuary areas so long as areas for foraging and breeding are readily available. In the graph displayed on screen from a study on the spatial distribution of tarpon throughout the course of the year, you can see how at different times during the year tarpon remain in generally the similar area, while at other times they make long travels crossing the Gulf of Mexico to reach different locations for breeding and foraging. As adults, tarpon are strictly carnivorous, feeding on fish and shrimp, as well as crabs similar to the fiddler crabs displayed on screen now, along with various other crustaceans that reside in the same brackish water as the adult tarpon. Now that we have a little bit of the basics, let's move on to the human-animal interactions. As my name is Fisher, I felt overly inclined to do a topic related to fishing. Which takes us to tarpon and the main topic of this project, recreational fishing. Tarpon are both renowned and prized within the sport and game fishing industries, which are part of the multi-billion-dollar recreational fishing industry in the United States. Tarpon can be responsible for hundreds of million dollars in annual revenue generated for the communities. While there is little evidence into the cognitive abilities of tarpon, reading any sports fisherman's blog or talking to any angler will yield you a world of knowledge on the intelligence of tarpon in detecting live and artificial bait. While not published in scientific articles, anglers frequently conduct studies following the scientific method to determine what artificial or live baits tarpon will most bite. As on screen right now, we have various types of artificial shrimp and fiddler crabs that are frequently used in attempts to catch tarpon. The realistic quality of these baits highlight tarpon's cognitive ability in detecting artificial baits from the real shrimp and crabs they would be eating. One of the reasons I sought to talk about tarpon in this project is to highlight the unique collaboration between fishermen and conservationists alike in the shared interest in maintaining tarpon populations. As previously mentioned, tarpon fishing is one of the major industries in the Atlantic Ocean, with many fishermen and guides relying on it as their sole source of income. Due to tarpon's poor meat quality and generally bony bodies, commercial fishing does not have a high desire for catching tarpon, leading recreational and sport fishing to be the main methods in which they are caught. This leads anglers to have a strong desire to maintain healthy tarpon populations in order to continue their fishing practices. Within the United States, and specifically the greater Florida region, this strong desire to maintain healthy tarpon populations has led to much advocacy on behalf of the tarpon. This is because in the past there has been substantial decline in tarpon populations, with one study finding between 1970 and 2010 an estimated 30% decline in tarpon populations across their entire Atlantic range, with some areas as up to 60%, as in the case of Brazil, a region which I will highlight in a second. Through organizations such as Tarpon Tags, who advocates for the monitoring and tagging of tarpon to see their migratory range, and whose data was highlighted in the chart of migratory tarpon a few images ago. And through groups such as the Bonefish and Tarpon Trust, which advocate for healthy fish populations of bonefish and tarpon, advocatory measures have been increased throughout the United States and much of the greater Caribbean. Organizations such as these have achieved many measures in the conservation of tarpon and other similar fish, such as catch and release only fishing regulations and the mapping of common nesting areas to regulate boat traffic. One of the major successes due to these organizations is the mandating of circle hooks, which can be seen here. While still injuring the fish, these hooks are designed to only catch the mouth, as opposed to the deep gut or intestines, as is in the case with many J hooks. This reduces the possibility of death and injury for the fish and allows their populations to continue to thrive while still being caught for recreational fishing. Another substantial achievement due to organizations like these is the categorization of vulnerable for Atlantic tarpon on the ICUN's Red List. While this list also highlights the decline in tarpon population globally, they mention the sustained populations in tarpon over the recent years, in part due to organizations such as the Bonefish and Tarpon Trust and Tarpon Tags. As mentioned, while regulations for tarpon in the United States and Florida have improved greatly, this is not the case globally. In areas such as Brazil, tarpon are frequently harvested specifically for their scales. As mentioned, their meat quality is very poor, however, the scales are often used in a variety of things such as chandeliers, jewelry, and guitar picks. These products are sold internationally and contribute to the economy of Brazil, however, they are continuously hurting the tarpon populations of the area. With this being said, there are many places that in recent years have aided in the tarpon conservation, such as Robbie's, which is one location I visited last October. Here, tourists are offered the opportunity to feed tarpon while also learning about their conservation and importance to the global economy and the ecosystems of the general Caribbean area. While tourists feeding tarpon at a specific location in Islamorada may not be helping their general population, the education tourists receive is crucial for the development and continuation as a recreational fishing species. Additionally, in recent years, tarpon have been increasingly used as logos for various things, such as the Tampa Tarpons, a minor league baseball team, and the frequent occurrence of tarpon on charter fishing ads and logos, such as the one displayed right now. This utilization of tarpon in common logos has the possibility to increase public opinion of them and therefore their conservation efforts. Throughout this project, I have displayed my scientific sources in the bottom left corner. As addition, here is a complete list of the sources I referenced in this project. In addition to the academic sources references, here's a list of the visual sources used throughout this project, referenced in AP style to the best of my ability. Thank you for watching my project on the Atlantic tarpon. I am Fisher Reitz.